Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, honor belongs to those who never forsake the truth, even when things look dark and grim. There is honor in humility. Mr. Speaker, whenever you see people attacking the messenger, they know they have lost the debate. Leadership is about taking responsibility, not making excuses. The fact that we are here this morning is an indictment on the political leadership of the opposition. This matter should have been resolved by the political leadership of the opposition. And the fact that this government has to bring a motion to bring some semblance of order to the functioning of a standing committee clearly says to the people of Guyana, leadership is in crisis in the political opposition. Mr. Speaker, it was said by one wise man, if you want to direct the orchestra, you got to turn your back to the crowd. To provide leadership often means that you have to turn your back to the crowd so that you could direct the orchestra. Leadership is what is the problem here this morning. I stand, sir, to support the motion moved by my honorable colleague, Madam Gail Teixeira, Minister of Governance and Parliamentary Affairs. And Mr. Speaker, let me use my time wisely. Members of the opposition said that there was no justification, and we just merely said certain issues arose and that we were making flimsy, spurious, vindictive, unmeritorious claims of why this motion is necessary. Mr. Speaker, I admit that this motion is grave, it is extreme, but it is very necessary. Yes, it is grave. Yes, it is an extreme measure, maybe unprecedented, but it's necessary. The Auditor General, at page 143 of the audit report of 2016, paragraph 310, wrote, including in the sums of 77.383 million is a contract awarded by the National Procurement and Tender Administration Board in December of 2016 to the sole bidder in the sum of 72.264 million to an overseas supplier for the supply and delivery of 3 motion scales with a delivery period for 90 days. The contract provided for an advance payment of 50% of the contract sum within 30 days of the signing of the contract and the balance on delivery. An audit examination revealed that the contract had no signature of witnesses. The contract was not dated. The National Procurement and Tender Administration Board number was not stated. As of the 31st of December 2016, the full contract sum was paid. It was also observed that a performance bond was not presented for audit examination. Further, at the time of the audit in September 2017, the scales have not been delivered. There was no evidence to show that an addendum to this contract was prepared. So this was a matter of the missing scale.
That's the minister's account.
Mr. Speaker, the ministry's response to the Public Accounts Committee stated the following. November 2015, 2016, bids were invited through the national competitive bidding process, but no bids were received. December 13, 2016, Ministry wrote the National Procurement and Administration Board requesting sole sourcing to NEV Pro Realization Limited. NEV Pro Realization Limited. Quotation had no date nor company stamp. So you had a contract without date, no signature of witnesses. Now we have a sole sourcing of a contract. The quotation had no date. The company stamp was not there. December 2016, Minister of Finance submitted cabinet paper requesting no objection to procure scale via sole sourcing, citing the following. No bids were submitted through the national competitive bidding. Urgent need for the scales. The supplier, NEV Pro Realization, is a reputable company that has been in operation for over 15 years. December 30, 2016, Cabinet no objection was issued. December 30, 2016, NPTAB letter of award was issued. December 6, 2016, the contract signed. Notice, NPTAB offers no objection. Cabinet offers no objection on December 30th. NPTAB letter of award December 30th, but the contract was signed December 6th. Who was the minister responsible for this sector? The Honorable David Patterson, Chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. So there was an arrangement for the purchase of scales from a company called NEV Pro Realization. The entire contract sum is paid, the scales not delivered, and as I speak tonight, they're still not in the possession of the ministry that paid the money for these scales. And it was paid to a company called NEV Pro. Mr. Speaker, the directors of NEV Pro are Coyote Stewart and Alston Stewart.
Honorable Minister, I don't think those honorable people are here to defend themselves, so if you could change the line of your presentation a bit.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm so guided. NEV Pro is a company out of Jamaica that is owned by someone who, when he was engaged in an incident in Trinidad where ammunition was found in his luggage, ammunition, a statement was issued blaming the PPPC of attempting to twist an unfortunate but innocent incident to give the impression that there was a sinister plot to smuggle ammunition as I was on my way to Guyana for pre-arranged meetings as an AFC election strategist. So this is the issue here, Mr. Speaker. We are buying the General Secretary of a party who is the minister in a government is buying scales that have not yet been delivered, where there are irregular transactions as it relates to the award of the contract, the date of the contract, the witnesses to the contract, the full contract sum being paid, and the person who is being paid is telling the world, I am the the election strategists for that party. The Public Accounts Committee, Mr. Chairman, is a committee where public officers have to come and answer for their stewardship. And when public officers come to answer for their stewardship, we who sit in that committee must not be the laughing stock of the public. And that is why we are demanding decency, integrity, and upholding good governance. And that is why this motion is necessary. Mr. Speaker, not only did the gentleman who we are buying the scales from say that he's an AFC election strategist, but the then leader of the AFC visiting Jamaica at the time of cricket gave an interview with a newspaper, and this is what he said. And I'm quoting, sir, from the Observer, Jamaica Observer. Among the benefits of the close association with the PNP, Truckman insists, was the loan to Guyana of senior PNP election strategist, media owner, and I leave out the name to comply with the rules, who was the driving force behind the coalition's narrow 5,360 vote win over the long-standing People's Progressive Party Civic, which had ruled Guyana for 23 years prior to the May general elections. So, the Auditor General is citing an irregular transaction, public monies that have been spent, given, the word used, loaned. The scales are not here. And the personalities involved is the General Secretary of the party, where the leader of the party has said that the vendor is a political strategist, and the man himself says he is a political strategist for that political party. And up until now, we don't have the skills. So the question could be asked, was this a facilitating of payment for services rendered in the name of buying a scale?
Have these scales arrived yet?
They have not. They're not in the possession of the ministry.
But they are fully paid for?
Mr. Speaker, so my support of this motion is not based upon the disclosures that I made earlier. And this has nothing to do with court cases, sir. In this envelope, every one of these are vouchers. Vouchers that show ministers, including the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee while he served as a minister, using statutory bodies to finance activities that the national budget through appropriations cater for. For example, upgrade of tickets for travel, being paid by statutory bodies, $3 million. The purchase of furniture for minister's office, which is catered for in the Appropriations Act, and it is also paid for by statutory bodies. Gifts of jewelry in excess of millions of dollars paid for by statutory bodies. Ministers and members of parliament receive laptops and cell phones through the parliament, bought for by statutory bodies. The person who presided over that regime is the person who is sitting as the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, where these statutory officers have to come and account for their stewardship. And we're going to be asking questions and they're going to be giggling. Look at these hypocrites. Look at these people. We are all compromised. We are all made into a position where we are brought into disrepute. And all we are saying, sir, you can't pontificate on the high altar of morality and lecture us when your record is what I hold in my hands tonight. Mr. Speaker, these matters are already known in the public. And when the disclosure was made, sir, about these excessive gifts, buying and presentation of gifts from agencies that fall under the honorable member at the time when he was minister, what was the first thing? He said nothing of the sort. He don't even like gold. He don't wear jewelry until he was photographed in the very parliament speaking with jewelry on his hands. And then he engaged the services of a public relations firm to do what they know best, spin narratives, insulting the collective wisdom and intelligence of the Guyanese people who see through these things what we will never admit. So what we have is a situation where we're all under question. I want to address the issue of the 19 fraud charges. And the honorable member, Ms. Chandan, should have been here to hear this. She said she was a former member of the bench. I never sat on the bench, and I'm not qualified as a lawyer. But I can tell you this, Mr. Speaker, I'm a mature person of reasonable understanding. I'm a mature person of reasonable understanding. None of the issues raised against the last chairman of the PAC derived its substance from an Auditor General's report. The issues that we are raising with the chairman of this PAC is not political gaffe. It's coming from the Auditor General's report that is being examined. Let me also nail this line. Let us also...
Honorable Minister, thank you very much. You withdraw that?
Let me also nail this misinformation, that we are trying to stymie the work of the Public Accounts Committee, and we are trying to hide from scrutiny. Mr. Chairman, I know you're a very learned and experienced man in the public accounts. We are examining the public accounts of 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, all years that the APNU AFC were in government. We are examining their stewardship. We are examining queries that came as a result of policy direction given to public officers to act that resulted in audit queries. We are examining violations of the Fiscal Management and Accountability Act and queries that were raised in the audit report. Not of the PPPC, Mr. and Honorable Member, but of the APNU plus AFC. Mr. Chairman, the issue here is that we cannot see a zombie behind every bush. From day one, we said to the honorable member, recuse yourself, resign as the chairman. You could remain on the committee. Act with honor. There is honor in humility, sir. There is honor in humility. Mr. Speaker, I want to record for the Hansard. The committee became a place where members of the opposition used it to personally insult, use invectives, inappropriate language, and make accusations against government members, including myself and Madam Gail Teixeira. Shameless display of desperation when they realized that they were caught in a vortex.
You're very thin-skinned, man.
Rather than face the reality that we have a challenge to deal with, they attacked the messengers. And Mr. Speaker, the record of the committees will show no less than 15 times I had to say to the chairman, Mr. Patterson, I will not be bullied by you. Because when he realized that he's caught in a very precarious situation, the tactic of himself, aided and abetted by Mr. Mahi Paul, and Charita Fernandez, and Jermaine Figueroa, the honorable members, aided and abetted by them, they sought to get into things extraneous to the work of the committee, to hurl insults, and to bully their way. Mr. Chairman, this matter could have been resolved at the level of the committee. So after we were bullied, insulted, but like a rhinoceros, we took our burns and abuses with good stead. We remained on a principled path and said, there is a procedural way, there is a parliamentary way, there is a principled way to deal with this matter. And the way that we chose was the way of a motion. Mr. Speaker, it is not correct for me to drag public officers into a debate, or even to speak into the debate like I saw honorable members were doing here today. But Mr. Speaker, I hung my head in shame that even when the clerk of the National Assembly was summoned to lend some advice, and he got advice from an independent legal expert, Mr. Patterson, the interested party, the chairman of the committee, accused the clerk of getting what we did not ask for, accused the clerk of going into an excursion in a manner that the committee did not request, and almost impute that the clerk said specific things to the lawyer in order to get a certain outcome in the opinion. That was the nature of the debate at the level of the committee. Desperation. Mr. Speaker, the honorable clerk, as he always does, indicated I'm only here to offer advice, and in a very humble, polite, and professional way, departed. After that, sir, and we had a delay of meetings for a few weeks. aided and abetted with an opinion from Mr. Ramjatan requested by members of the honorable member, by members of the opposition. They now summoned the Public Accounts Committee. And you know what they intended to do, sir? To behave as if there was no motion before the committee. It was not on the agenda. We have to fight to get it back on the agenda. When we get it on the agenda, it is hysteric. The gentleman is chairing the meetings, and while we are saying, when we broke at a particular point, we need to start from that point. He used his position of the chair to direct what he was doing. And Mr. Speaker, forget about everything else that I have said before. The audit report, the concerns, the betrayal of the public trust, the disclosures that were made, the denials, the public opinion, the way we were brought into disrepute, the comments that were made publicly about us. Because as a committee, we function as a committee. The conduct of the chairman after those events alone warrants his grave, extreme, and necessary action tonight. Mr. Speaker, what we are seeking to do by way of this motion is to simply say to the opposition, including the leader of the opposition, we cannot choose your members that sit on any committee. That's your prerogative through a process that comes through the committee of selection. But we have a problem. The person who is currently serving as chairman of the Public Accounts Committee is putting us, and as a subset of this National Assembly, is putting the entire National Assembly under a cloud, question, and can bring our work into disrepute and cause us to be looked upon as dishonorable in the eyes of the public. We need to preserve the integrity of this august assembly. This action is to ensure that we preserve that, sir. Mr. Speaker, I noted your correspondence that you sent to the honorable member, which gave guidance that the motion must be put. We could have settled this matter without this 4 o'clock in the morning discourse and vote. But Mr. Speaker, we have a people who believe that they could continually spin narratives to a section of the population who somehow they believe them. There's a group that believes that might is right. And sir, tonight is not about settling scores. It's about bringing order to a committee and restoring the high standards and principles of a standing committee to ensure good governance, the rule of law, transparency, and accountability. Thank you very much, sir.